One video game company that everyone loves to drag through the mud nowadays is Ubisoft. And for good reasons, with many pointing out how they become a former shell of themselves, or how most of their games all follow the same formula, their continuous shady business practices, and the fact that they turn each of their games into some pay-to-win, always-online money grab, even if it's a single-player game. And while yeah, I do pretty much agree with all these points here, I think one of Ubisoft's biggest missed opportunities as a company was not leaning into community-driven creations as much as they could have, although they did try with a few of their franchises. Most notably with the Far Cry series, where each title released with its own map editor for players to create endless arenas to fight in online. And my first ever run-in with the Far Cry series was way back when I was a small potato, and we rented Far Cry Instincts for the family Xbox. And I loved every second of that wild-ass game, and its whole B-movie level story, low frame rate and all. It was superb. But the majority of that time I spent playing that game was with the custom maps and the map editor that it had, because it unlocked even more potential that the game had at the time. And over the years, with each new Far Cry game, these map editors and the maps that people make for them have only gotten better and better, with it peaking at Far Cry 5 with its own dedicated side mode titled Far Cry Arcade. Far Cry Arcade essentially gave players more out of Far Cry 5's addictive combat, by not only including a map editor to build those endless multiplayer arenas, but it also gave players the tools to craft their own custom missions, and hell, even custom campaigns using this game's engine. And hell, Ubisoft went as far as to include assets from not only the entirety of Far Cry 5's asset library and even its DLCs, but they also ported over thousands of objects from other games like Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, and a few other titles. So that way players could create endless missions and multiplayer maps with a variety of different themes. From zombie survival maps to full-on campaigns replicating other games entirely. And the possibilities here seemed endless. But of course, because of Decima's limitations, you can't create new UI features or dialogue with characters or anything like that, but you can craft a mission throughout a map, script certain events to play out, and even leave objective clues in the map if the budget allows it. But unfortunately, ever since the release of New Dawn and the development of Far Cry 6, Ubisoft made the decision to gut this beloved feature from the franchise entirely, showing a middle finger to a sizable yet still very niche portion of their community. Thankfully, at least at the time of the recording of this video, Far Cry Arcade is still up and running. So today, I wanted to take a break from checking out mods for different games and shout out some of the more notable experiences that I've played within Ubisoft's biggest forgotten gem, Far Cry Arcade. Starting off with a banger and my personal favorite creation that I've seen so far is Welcome to Canton City. Welcome to Canton City is what you get when you combine Grand Theft Auto's open world formula with Far Cry's intense combat. Created by map editor man, his goal was to pull off a fully functioning open world city within Far Cry's map editor. And holy shit, dude, map editor man cooked here. Whenever you start up the map, you'll start off in your character's safe house, and you'll have the option to adjust the time of day or leave it alone and let the map utilize its default day and night cycle. And then once we head outside, there will be instructions given in big yellow letters that pretty much give us a rundown of what to do to get started. From here, we do a brief introduction mission that shows us some of the city and how missions will play out. And at the end of this, it even has a cutscene that plays once finished that explains a few more things about how the open world works. And WCC's mission structure aligns very closely with what the original Grand Theft Auto games were like, by having you visit various payphones located around the city, and they'll provide you with instructions for what you need to do for each mission. With 18 missions in total that have us take down each of the 3 crime families in the city, and 5 different side missions to play, there is no shortage of things to do here in Canton City. With shipment deliveries, repo missions, vigilante missions, vehicle challenges, and hell, even a zombie house located on one of the far corners of town where you can fight off waves of zombies, and there's even a few more things to do here as well. It's insane how well he was able to pull this off, all in Far Cry 5's map editor. It's wild. And since there's no way to really save your progress in an arcade map, the workaround for this was that anytime you reopen the map, you can just go and destroy this potted plant that's in your garden, and it unlocks every single mission so you can pick up right where you left off. And even just going around and exploring the open world itself, you can tell that map editor man put a lot of love and care into this map, and it's insanely well done. With the city itself being based slightly off of Chicago, since a lot of the map assets are ones ported over from Watch Dogs, but there were some parts of it that heavily reminded me of Steelport from Saints Row the Third. Of course, with the limitations of the engine, the city's not going to be bustling with people like it's Cyberpunk, but there are enough dynamic NPCs walking around the streets, or running kiosks, or even some NPCs programmed to drive around those streets every once in a while, to where you at least get the vibe that the city's fully lived in. You'll even come across some rival gang members when roaming around, which always turns into some crazy shootout. And it really feels like Canton City is just this crime-ridden city that you're taking back from the gangs that control the town. And another way that this adds to the Grand Theft Auto vibe that I mentioned earlier is that there's even weapon pickups that you can find around the map, akin to GTA 4, where there's a little light that flashes around those guns. And anytime you pick up these guns out in the world, they're added to the gun shops in town and your personal bunker at the safe house once you pick them up, as if they were unlocked in some way. And with all this being programmed together inside of Far Cry Arcade's editor, it's pretty insane if I'm being honest. Map Editor Man was able to pull off an incredible achievement here with this map, as WCC feels like a completely new game inside of Far Cry Arcade. And as a clear example of how far this map editor for Far Cry could go before it was left behind. So kudos, Map Editor Man, you made one hell of a map, and it's probably the best one that you'll play over in the arcade. Fantastic work, my dude. When I was just a small little potato, one game that I spent endless nights playing with my brothers was GoldenEye for the N64. As back then it was like the pinnacle of split-screen shooters, at least until we got Halo in the house. But GoldenEye also had one of the more memorable shooter campaigns of my early childhood. And over the years, there have been many attempts at remastering this classic from different developers, with my personal favorite being the unreleased GoldenEye remake from Rare that never dropped for Xbox Live Arcade, that leaked a few years back. But now, I think I found my new favorite remaster here in Far Cry Arcade, with Crawleywood's GoldenCry 007. Keep in mind, when you go looking inside of the arcade, there are quite a few different versions that you can find in the browser, but the best ones that I've played by far are the ones ordered by Grazloop, because they've expertly recreated every single level from the original GoldenEye. And of course, the only thing that's really missing are the cutscenes that play on each map and the briefing screens before each one, but every single level includes the objectives of the map right at the start, as well as being able to choose your starting weapon, which is in place of choosing the difficulty for each level, which I highly recommend Double Agent for every single mission, as it's personally, in my opinion, the best way to go about it. But every single map not only plays and feels just like their original counterparts, while still updating the visuals of each map in a masterful way that can really make these maps look like they were professionally remade. With one of my personal favorites being Surface, which went from this desolate, really bright snow area in the original that barely gave off a sunset vibe due to the limitations of the N64, is now this luscious, snowy environment that takes place during an appropriately lit sunset, which gives you plenty of places to hide in the shadows. And while it changes the vibe quite a bit, it still looks breathtaking compared to the original, and has some wildlife sprinkled about running through the boundaries, so that way you can use them to interfere with the enemies. But there are certain changes made to each map that make sense given the constraints of the engine. Like when it comes to changes, in the streets level, instead of driving a tank throughout town, since Far Cry 5's map editor doesn't have a tank as an asset, you'll instead drive a truck that has a machine gun on the back, which works just as well in my opinion. And some of the maps are even combined due to how much further this engine can be pushed, since we're really not playing on an old N64 anymore. Like with that surface level I just mentioned, it's now combined with the following level, Bunker, and even the reverse of those maps later in the campaign are also combined. Or even with the Depot map now being interconnected with the train map, which makes a lot of sense. And the way they got these two maps to work as a seamless level is pretty interesting, as the train itself never even moves, just like in the original game. But it makes some of these levels have these seamless transitions into the next for constant action between one another. And having the ability to use the suite of gameplay options in Far Cry Sandbox means you can actually pull off some significant stealth like Bond should have been doing in that game. Or you could just go in guns blazing like in the original. There's always that. But man, every single level here is expertly crafted to bring a fresh but familiar experience compared to the original GoldenEye. And while there are a few different versions made here in arcade, Grazlu's version is probably the best one, because not only was it able to capture the spirit of the original N64 version, but it also updated the game graphically in ways that really modernized the entire experience. They even have some of the smaller details that some of the community has caught over the years, with us being able to take a boat out of that island way off in the distance on the dam level, and even a few more things. So if you've been itching to replay GoldenEye for some reason like I have, but want a fresh new coat of paint and more gameplay variety, then I highly recommend checking out Crawleywood's GoldenCry maps. And if you're enjoying the video so far, consider dropping a like on it, or hell, even hype it up. And thank you so much for at least tapping on the video and checking it out so far. I really appreciate it. But let's jump back into what Far Cry Arcade has to offer. Far Cry Arcade also offers a ton of other remakes of other properties out there that are like bite-sized versions of the things that they're based on, but are done so with expert precision. But starting off with one of the better remakes that I've played is with the Resident Evil remakes by Oyster Wallet, which are incredibly accurate yet condensed versions of the original Resident Evil 1 and 3. And there's even a recreation of the opening scene that you get to play through on the first Resident Evil game. And the mansion. Oh my god, it's so good. And the cool thing is if you have prior knowledge of these games, it really helps because you're pretty much going to be completing a lot of the objectives in the same order by finding keys to progress through certain parts of the map and unlock more areas to explore, and find new equipment to help you fight back against zombies and BOWs that plague the area. The maps even have certain areas that work exactly like they would in the base game, like with Plant 42 in the early sections of the mansion, actually killing you if you don't find the fertilizer needed to kill it first. But both the mansion and Raccoon City, and hell, even the Raccoon City Police Department, all look incredible within the Decima Engine. Like, yeah, seeing the Resident Evil remakes was cool, and even seeing Resident Evil remade on the Source engine was pretty damn interesting. But remaking the OG Resident Evil games in Far Cry 5's map editor is a whole nother feat in of itself, and it's pulled off incredibly well here. Or if you're in the taste for a different type of apocalypse, there are some incredible remakes of both Fallout 3 and 4 by both Oyster Wallet and Snowcone 1990, which give you condensed versions of those different wastelands to explore and do quests in. With Oyster's Fallout 3 remake, this has you stepping straight out of the vault into the capital wasteland with a very simple main objective: find Dad. And after gawking at the capital itself for a few moments, the map starts to point you in the direction of Megaton, which is where we can gather some quests from both Moira and Moriarty, or at least this game's version of these two. And from there, we pretty much end up doing simple versions of early quests in Fallout 3, even getting our own safe house here in Megaton, and eventually venture out into the city, even meeting Three Dog in the process and doing his intro quest.
Hey.
But due to the limitations of this engine, we're not really going to see any sort of dialogue trees or get any unique UI prompts, so it's just very simple questing. And the level pretty much ends with us finding our father Liam Neeson dead in a basement of a gas station. Whereas Snowcone's take on Fallout 4's Boston Commonwealth has us killing off a number of raiders within the greater Concord region, with a very accurate recreation of the town and the Red Rocket just outside of it.
But other than that, there's not really too much of note with this one, because it's really just killing as many raiders as you can within the area. But still, the areas that they recreated are very well made.
Or there's the guzzling apocalypse of Mad Max, where we get to go ahead and pet the pup, and then hop into our ride to take out 4 targets in various parts around the map, which is an impressively condensed version of Avalanche Studios' take on Max's open world, with us taking out a roaming vehicle as one of the targets, invading a bandit camp and taking out their leader, fighting inside of the Thunderdome and winning a match, and then finally heading out to take out a road captain hidden inside of a buried trade station, before heading back home to chill with our dog. But the main takeaway I want to take from this level especially is the map design here, because it is absolutely stunning. And it had me stopping to gawk at the environment half of the time while playing this level, especially within this train station. But even a lot of the visual motifs from the death and destruction all around you was very, very reminiscent of Avalanche Studios' take on their open world. And it's a hell of an homage to that game. Or hell, there's some incredibly accurate COD Zombies remakes to play like Der Riese or Kino der Toten, which are just as addicting as the base game. Or if you don't want zombies, you can even play the Clean House mission from Modern Warfare 2019, which has some of the best lighting I've seen within these custom maps.
And the last notable game remake that I wanted to talk about is for the
Manhunt maps by Oldtimer 1969, or at least the first 5 levels of Manhunt. But these levels allow us to carve our way through Carcer City and follow the exact same mission structure that we'd follow in the base game, by having us stealthily take out cult members across the city while the cameras are watching, and follow environmental indicators to make our way throughout the shadows. But not only are there video game remakes, there are also various movie remakes that pretty much take you through interactive versions of some of the movies that you'd see on the silver screen. Like a multi-mission playthrough of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, where much like the canceled Terminator 2 Judgment game mod for San Andreas that I covered a few videos back, these maps aim to recreate the intense action found throughout that entire movie, and they do so incredibly well with what they have available. And there's also an interactive version of the 2004 Dawn of the Dead movie, which lets you pick your character from the start and make your way from under the freeway and into the mall, and play out various sections or scenes from the movie, and also allows you to freely explore the Monroeville Mall, with some of the environmental storytelling here accurately recreating some scenes from the movie. And hell, there's even a remake of Temple of Doom that you can run through and see certain events from the movie play out there as well. Or if you don't want to fight any enemies and just want something a bit more peaceful, there's a few homages to certain areas found throughout the Lord of the Rings movies and books that you can explore. And there are so many great remakes and homages, even outside of these ones that I've covered, that I highly encourage you to check out. But even outside of that, there are plenty of great original maps and multi-level campaigns that you can also play through that can keep you hooked to playing arcade for practically months, with one of my personal favorite originals being the custom campaign called The Road, where you roam through the crumbled remains of the Peggy-ridden world just after the ending of Far Cry 5. And if any of these maps intrigued you, even just a bit, I highly encourage that you go check them out.
Now you're probably wondering, what about the multiplayer? Well, yeah, there is multiplayer that you can play here that consists of team deathmatch and so forth, and a ton of custom maps made for Far Cry Arcade as well. but I only played a few matches of this and didn't really spend a whole lot of time here. But there's always plenty of matches going on, so if you're interested in playing some multiplayer and some custom maps, you'll definitely find a server going on.
I'm not gonna lie, I was worried when making this video that some of these maps would just turn out to be cheap imitations of the games that they're based on, but what I found was a lot of genuinely impressive work put on display with each of these different creations. And I'm hoping this video will get some of you out there to go back and check out some of these people's work, since there are a ton of creators out there who are probably just doing this for fun or wanting to use it as work for game development in the future that should all have their art applauded in more ways than just providing a like inside of the game. And while we look at modding as the ultimate way for gamers to freely express their creative intuitions within the games that they play, or just to achieve something in the game that wasn't there before, we sometimes take for granted those who create these types of custom content in their spare time. And I'm glad Ubisoft gave players and map editors the tools to go wild with their creations within those $60 packages that we bought. And of course, we could sit here and ask, why would Ubisoft get rid of something like money? Probably. There was no way for Ubisoft to properly monetize this type of system. And by the time that they built a platform for players to build their ultimate dream creations with Far Cry Arcade, they quietly left it behind after New Dawn and never really brought it back with Far Cry 6. And as Ubisoft continues to make questionable decision after another, with reports of the next Far Cry game becoming a live service, have the previous 10 years of failed live service games not taught these companies anything? Nope. Whatever. Anyway, it's highly unlikely that the map editor feature will ever return. But hopefully, Ubisoft keeps Far Cry 5 servers running, or gives players some alternative down the line, or else there would be a ton of great work lost to the ether if they ever shut this down. So if anything, I hope this video, along with many others on the same subject, are at least a time capsule of some of the fantastic work that was made inside of this game's mode. And to all of those who've created maps for the Far Cry community over the years, from me and everyone who has played your creations, thank you for all of your hard work. If you made it this far in the video, please drop a like and consider subscribing to the channel if videos about community-made content is something that you enjoy. This has been a project I've been wanting to make for years, so if you want to see some deep dives into other forms of community-made content besides mods, or other mods that I haven't checked out yet, let me know down in the comments. Also, make sure to follow me on other platforms, or even join the Discord if you want to be a part of the community. And also hype the video, because that's a thing now, so also do that, hype it up, and yeah. Anyways, that is all from me, everybody. I hope you all had a fantastic day, or at least a better one tomorrow, and I'll see you all next time. BladeO out.